Until they bring the streetcars back. Chapter 6. On Wednesday, Jerry and I were hanging around the hall outside the lunchroom in the sub-basement waiting for the bell. Steve is pulling the pin on DB's door, Jerry said. Some of the boys are going to jam the stairway so DB will be late. Steve's on probation, I said. If he gets in any more trouble, they'll kick him out of school. I know, that screwball acts like he wants to be kicked out. Cal, someone said. I turned, and there was Gretchen standing behind me, holding her books in both arms and staring at the floor. Geez, she came out of nowhere, like a ghost or something, because without really thinking about it, I was keeping an eye out for her. Jerry rolled his eyeballs, and I didn't know what to do. Hello, I said, and I was glad there weren't any kids around I knew. The bell rang, and Jerry took off, and a mob of kids blasted out of the lunchroom like a sewer was backing up. I have to go, I said, and I wedged into the pack, but Gretchen moved right behind me, shouting above the noise. Helga had a baby. Who's Helga? I yelled over my shoulder, trying to ditch her, but the stairway was jammed and the jumble of kids hardly moved. She's my sister. Up ahead, one level, senior boys had locked arms, 6 abreast, and we were taking the steps like Frankenstein. Did she go to Central? I said. We were moving about an inch a minute. Yes, but she's gone now, she shouted. As Steve planned, D.B. Sanderson came bombing his way through the backlog in a sweat to get to his physics classroom before any of his class. Where'd she go? I said. D.B. went out of sight around the landing, worming his way through the crowd, and I tried to catch up. She stayed on my tail and caught me at the landing. She went away, but we still have the baby, she said. Up ahead, D.B. broke through the log jam. I gotta go. See you in study, I said. It's dead, she said. The baby's dead. I almost ran over 2 girls, getting the heck away from her. Holy cow. She was nuttier than a fruitcake. I made it to the second floor just in time. D.B. rushed to his room, and when he yanked the big oak door open, it sprang off its hinges and pounced on him like a gorilla, making him drop his papers and grab it by the edges. I never knew why, but all the doors in this place were big enough for King Kong. They really were. For a second he stood there, bent backwards and straining to straighten the heavy door that was trying to mangle him into the floor. Battling the law of gravity he was always yakking about, and nobody offered to help, and everyone was laughing like crazy. 2 quick steps back, 1 to the right, 3 forward. D.B. Sanderson was dancing with the door like Charlie Chaplin, trying to keep it from killing him in front of 100 students who were basically cracking up. Steve was laughing so hard I thought he'd bust a gut, and other kids were hanging on to each other to keep from falling down. I felt sorry for DB. I mean, it was funny, and I couldn't help but laugh, but it was kind of sad too. And I always got mixed up on stuff like that. Like, how was I supposed to feel? And I wanted to help him. The dance went on, 3 fast steps back, 2 to the right, until the poor guy finally out-wrestled the door and tipped it back against the wall. Without a word, he bent to pick up his things, and he was puffing and his face was all shiny with sweat. A couple girls helped him with his papers, and he hurried into the room. Jerry found me and punched me on the shoulder. Did you see it? God, I thought I'd die right on the spot. Yeah, but I was afraid he'd get hurt or something, I said. Kids scattered like chickens, and we took off down the stairs, racing to beat the second bell. What did Gretch the Wretch want? I don't know. I think she's crazy. I punched him on the shoulder. Cripes, why didn't you warn me she was coming? I never saw her until she was standing there, he said. She must have been hanging in a locker like a vampire. Jerry laughed his big toothy laugh, and we ducked into Whaleman's study hall. Geez, except for the unattached door leaning against the wall outside of room 203, the classic moment of D.B. Sanderson's door dancing was over. I figured that if he had ever got tired of all that stuff in physics, he could always teach a dance class or something. With Jerry honking out front, I scrambled to leave, stuffing things in my gym bag, while my mother grumbled from the dining room where she was ironing my jockstrap. I'm hoodooed, she said, as she tried to flatten the snarled elastic, one curler in her hair. Believing she was hoodooed had become a philosophy of life for her mother. She had a lot of aches and pains and was sick a lot, which only seemed to prove that that to her that she was hoodooed. I bombed through the dining room. You're not hoodooed, Mom. I don't need that ironed. I snatched the jockstrap from the ironing board and stuffed it in my bag. Are you and Dad coming tonight? It's homecoming and we're playing Monroe. Monroe was our biggest rival. We hated those guys. But I knew it wouldn't make any difference if we were playing convicts from Stillwater. He's working late today, and I'm afraid he won't be home in time to eat and get to the game. If we had a car, he could, I said. I headed for the door, and Jerry honked again. That rabbit has to go tomorrow, Calvin, my mom said, as she folded up the ironing board. It's good and mended. It keeps getting out of its box, and it left a pile of its marbles on the kitchen floor this afternoon. Okay, okay, I said, and I hurried down the front stairs. I hoped my mother would keep forgetting about the rabbit. I named him Hotfoot because he'd be sitting still 1 second and go blasting across the floor the next, as if someone lit a match under him. I knew it was inevitable, but I kept putting off letting him go. There were bloodthirsty little grade schoolers out there, and I didn't understand why anyone would want to chop up a little bunny, kill something so lovable and helpless, and it bothered me. It really did. I almost died when we missed the extra point, Sandy Myers said. She was sitting on a folding chair between me and her date, Scott McFarland, along the gym wall, the only girl in the row of stags. We were ahead the whole game. Yeah, a tie is so crummy. And with those dorks from Monroe, I said, why aren't you dancing? I don't know. We did dance once, but I had to ask him. Scott was pretty bashful around girls, and he sat yakking about the game with the stags like old men on a storefront porch. I'd dance with you if you weren't with Scott. Scott, I know, Bean. It's okay. She gave me a hopeless scowl. Sandy and I had been friends all through grade school, and she was the only one who called me Bean. We went to Ramsey, and when we were in third grade, I got my tongue stuck to a fence one morning. I was just standing there watching some older kids goofing around before the bell, and I tried to lick the frost off the pipe along the top of the chain link fence. My tongue stuck like flypaper. It was about 23 below that morning, and when I tried to pull my tongue off, I could tell it wasn't going to come. It felt like it was frying, and was really scared. I thought I'd go through life without a tongue and end up a beggar with a tin cup or something. I couldn't talk, but I started yelling, and I sounded like a sheep. Sandy saw me and shouted, "Don't move, don't move." She snatched a small thermos out of her lunch sack and sloshed hot soup over the pipe and my frying tongue. In about 5 seconds, my tongue came loose. Geez, was I ever happy. It had been bean soup with little chunks of ham or bacon, and I got it all over my face and my winter jacket, and it looked like I had chucked my cookies. But I was so glad to have my tongue back, I didn't care. When I rambled into school, kids ducked away from me and screwed up their faces and held their noses. I tried to clean my jacket in the lavatory with paper towels, but a lot of the soup just stuck. I knew when my mother saw it, she'd hit the ceiling, but I felt like kissing Sandy for saving my tongue. Ever since then, usually when she was kind of blue or something, she'd call me Bean. We gazed across the gymnasium, decked out in red and black, to welcome alumni and sweethearts to the homecoming dance. If you ever wanted to get out of a class, I can get you a pass, Sandy said as she glanced at her fingernails and then slipped her hand under her dress. She bit her nails all the time, sometimes down to the quick, and she always was hiding them. How can you do that? I work in the office first period and I can get blank passes and forge the teachers' names. Yeah, but those passes go back to the teacher who signed them, I said. Steve got nailed doing that. I know, but Mary Thompson works in the office sixth period and sorts the passes into the teachers' boxes. She'll just take out the forged pass and tear it up. Swell, but I'd be afraid to pull that. With my luck, Mary would be absent that day I did it, and if my dad ever found out, he would kill me. Well, let me know if you ever want to, she said. Sandy was a good friend. I mean, she told you what she really thought, even when you wished she wouldn't, and she wouldn't blab about everything you told her. She was thin and really high strung, but it was in a nice way, excited and enthused about things, and she acted like she was always behind time and was trying to catch up. When I first got to know her, I thought she'd have a big key stuck in her back like a wind up toy because she always bounced around as if someone had just wound up her spring. She sat next to me in homeroom for 3 years and was my pipeline to the wacky world of girls. How long ago did Gretchen Letterman's sister go here? I asked. 2 years. You ever hear anything about a baby? A baby? Whose baby? Sandy said. I don't know. She said some crazy stuff about a baby. I think she's loony. Well, it is nice that you talk to her. I don't think anyone else does. I'd never known. I never know what to say. I don't talk to her, Cripes. She talked to me once. I wished I never brought up the subject and I shut up. The band was playing Dream and there wasn't much light, to make it romantic and stuff. And I watched Tom and Lola dancing on the crowded floor. They were voted Central's homecoming king and queen by the student body. What a lousy coincidence. God, it was enough to make me go to Monroe or something. Ain't Tom and Lola perfect together? Sandy said. Yeah, perfect. I gave it my best. I gave it my best sarcasm, like I wanted her to know how much I was hurting, but Sandy didn't seem to notice. I tried to watch Lola on the dance floor, like Sid, so no one could tell where I was looking. She had grown up over the summer in a way that made me kind of ache inside, and her sun-tan smile made me forget to breathe. She had these two upper front teeth that kind of peeked out between her luscious red lips and just about drove me crazy. They really did. I think this is the last dance, I said as the band played Sentimental Journey. I know, she sighed. Don't remind me. All of a sudden, Scout turned to Sandy like he was facing J. Edgar Hoover, and his voice sounded like he hadn't talked since he was in grade school. Would you like to dance? He said. Sandy popped up and for the final dance they stepped around the floor like the Tin Man and the Scarecrow in the Wizard of Oz. The sign at the end of the gym, Mop Up Moreau, had come loose on one end and hung limply like our disappointment. Our high hopes for a championship season had gone out with the floodlights on the field. We tied Monroe 13-13. The king and queen danced cheek to cheek as the band played the last song, and I slipped out the side door and hoofed it home.